When I think back to my childhood, it's the immediate awakening of my trauma. A time when life was supposed to be carefree, filled with laughter and joy, was marred for me by a series of unsettling events. I was just 14, a teenager grappling with the harsh reality of my parents' divorce. The world as I knew it was crumbling around me, and my little brother Bobby and I were caught in the crossfire. We were uprooted from the familiar and thrust into the unknown. Moving boxes became our constant companions, a bitter reminder of the life we were leaving behind. Our father, unable to gain custody, could do nothing but watch as we packed our lives into cardboard. And our mother, bearing the weight of our world on her shoulders, tried her best to keep us afloat. In the midst of all this chaos, I found myself craving solitude. My childhood playmate Bobby was left to navigate this new world on his own. The guilt of abandoning him gnawed at me, but the allure of isolation was too strong to resist. It's a decision that haunts me to this day. Our new home was a mystery waiting to be unraveled. I remember my first day there, how I marched up the stairs and claimed the first room I saw as my own. It was an act of defiance, a way of asserting some control in a situation that was spiraling out of my grasp. I lay on the floor, staring at the ceiling, trying to find some semblance of peace in this unfamiliar territory. But peace was elusive. From the corner of my ear, I could hear Bobby whispering in the next room. At first, I dismissed it as the ramblings of a child trying to make sense of his new surroundings. But as the whispers grew louder, they began to take on a sinister tone. It was as if Bobby wasn't alone in his room, as if he was conversing with someone unseen. And not without difficulty, I heard my little brother whispering to himself in the next room. At first, I hadn't really paid attention, but the more I listened, the more I had the impression that he was talking to someone. Bobby's whispers were faint, like a soft wind rustling through a forgotten forest. It was a sound that seemed out of place, a mere echo in the silent house. I could hear the whispers, but they were not Bobby's. They were different, strained, and filled with a kind of pain that was foreign to my young ears. His whispers were like a puzzle, a cryptic code that needed to be deciphered. I found myself drawn to it, my curiosity piqued. I pressed my ear against the cold, thin wall that separated us, straining to catch every syllable, every inflection. The words were unclear, muffled, but there was an undeniable sense of urgency in them, a plea for help, perhaps. "Mum must not find me," the voice whispered. The tone was hushed and desperate, a stark contrast to Bobby's usual cheerful demeanor. The voice seemed to be in agony, as if it was fighting for every breath. It sent chills down my spine, a cold dread that made my heart pound in my chest. The whispers stopped as abruptly as they had started, leaving behind an eerie silence that seemed to echo with the remnants of the strange voice. I found myself questioning my sanity. Was I imagining things? Was my mind playing tricks on me? The thought was as unsettling as the whispers themselves. Despite the gnawing fear at the pit of my stomach, I brushed off the incident. I was already dealing with the emotional turmoil of my parents' divorce. I was not ready, nor willing, to entertain the possibility of something sinister lurking in our new home. So I chose to ignore it, to push it to the back of my mind, to continue with my day as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. At the time, I thought that I had imagined everything, but as the whispers continued, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease, the sense of impending doom that seemed to hang heavy in the air. Little did I know, the whispers were just the beginning of a nightmare that was yet to unfold, that it was impossible for me to prioritize anything else, so I continued my day as if nothing had happened. I was consumed by the task of unpacking my life, every book, every poster, every memento from a past that was rapidly becoming a distant memory. The whispers had become a background noise, a disconcerting soundtrack to my new reality. In the midst of this struggle to claim my space, the voice returned. It was more chilling, more unsettling. It crawled under my skin, echoing around my mind. It was a voice that shouldn't exist, a voice that had no place in a child's room. It was a voice that carried the weight of desolation, of desperation. It was a voice that belonged to the shadows, a voice that clawed its way out from the depths of despair. I tried to dismiss it, to convince myself that it was just my imagination playing tricks on me, a byproduct of the stress and upheaval. But the voice was persistent. It was a whisper that grew into a roar, a plea that became a command. It was a voice that refused to be ignored. The voice echoed in my ears, a chilling refrain that sent shivers down my spine. It was a voice that knew my name, a voice that beckoned me. "Stan, come to the other hand." The words hung in the air, heavy with dread. I was paralyzed, caught in the grip of fear. The voice was no longer just a whisper. It was a presence, a specter that loomed over me. I felt its icy touch, its chilling breath on my neck. I had never felt such a feeling of insecurity inside my own home. My sanctuary had become a prison, my refuge a nightmare. The voice was a constant reminder of the terror that lurked in the shadows, the horror that was just a whisper away. I was trapped, ensnared by a voice that was not my own, a voice that held me captive in my own room. I had never felt such a feeling of insecurity inside my own home. Someone was in Bobby's room. The words echoed in my mind, a chilling premonition that painted my world in shades of terror. A nameless dread welled up within me, as if the very marrow in my bones had turned to ice. I stood frozen, my breath hitched in my throat, my heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. The whispers, the voice, the fear, it all coalesced into a horrifying realization. Something was terribly wrong. The fact that Bobby's room was the epicenter of this mystery made it all the more unnerving. My little brother, the innocent who still believed in the tooth fairy, was caught in the middle of this chilling enigma. Despite the terror gnawing at my sanity, I knew I couldn't stand idly by. I had to investigate. I had to find out what was happening, and more importantly, I had to protect Bobby. He was my brother after all. It was my duty to shield him from the horrors of the world, even if those horrors lurked within our own home. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for whatever lay ahead. My heart pounded in my chest like a war drum, each beat echoing the silent chant of courage. I reached out, my hand trembling as I turned the doorknob. My mind was a whirlwind of fear and uncertainty, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. The door creaked open, revealing the horror within. I won't describe what I saw, for the memory of it still haunts my dreams. Suffice to say, it was a sight no 14-year-old should ever have to witness. A sight so horrifying, so utterly chilling, it would forever scar my soul. In that moment, I understood. I understood why the whispers, why the voice, why the fear. I understood why my life had taken such a terrifying turn. The peaceful days of my childhood were over, shattered by the cruel hand of fate. I was 14 at the time and living a peaceful life until my parents divorced. But as I stood there, in the face of unnameable horror, I realized that my peaceful life had been nothing more than a comforting illusion. And now, that illusion was shattered, replaced by a chilling reality that would haunt me for the rest of my days. My little brother and I were already struggling to cope. With the divorce, the move, the whispers, the voice. It was a whirlwind of chaos that swept us into its heart. We were just kids after all. We didn't sign up for a horror story. Yet, there we were, living it. In the aftermath of the events, things were never the same. The whispers, the voice, the fear, they left a mark, a scar that refused to fade. The echoes of the past haunted our present, casting long, chilling shadows. We were left grappling with questions that had no answers, with memories that had no place in the light of day. Our relationship, once filled with innocent banter and playful rivalry, was riddled with silence, a silence that spoke volumes. We were brothers, yes, but the experiences we shared, the secrets we harbored, they drove a wedge between us. It was as if we were both survivors of a shipwreck, clinging on to the debris of our shattered lives, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Yet in the midst of it all, there were lessons learned. Lessons about the fragility of life, about the hidden horrors that lurk in the shadows, about the strength of the human spirit in the face of adversity. It was a brutal initiation into the harsh realities of life, a crash course in survival. I often wonder, why did it happen to us? Why were we chosen to bear the burden of these haunting memories? But I've come to realize, perhaps it's not about finding answers. Perhaps it's about finding the courage to face the questions, to confront the past, to break the silence. I've carried these memories, these secrets for far too long. It's time to share them, to cast light on the shadows, to free myself from the chains of the past. It's not about seeking validation or sympathy. It's about healing, about finding closure, about reclaiming my life from the clutches of the past. So I don't have much to lose, but rather everything to gain from telling you everything that happened that week.